Hello, everybody. This is kind of a bookmarker, but it's more really about talking about my reading habits and how schizophrenic they are, and the existence of synchronicity. Well, first of all, ever since I saw this in the Week magazine, I've been wanting to pick it up. It's the Time Travel History by James Gleick, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. I'm a bit of a time travel fanatic, and I can't think of a time in my life that I wasn't obsessed with the concept. Probably ever since I found my grandmother's egg timer once upon a time. I was just fascinated with it. You turn around the sand and it just goes down 3 minutes. The running of the sand, the way it gradually accumulated, I don't know, it just kind of made an impression. And got to have an hourglass downstairs, which I turn around obsessively every time I go past it when it needs it. So everything, as I was growing up, everything from episodes of Star Trek to that TV movie remake of The Time Machine in the 70s, guy with the bell bottoms and the shaggy hair, triangular looking time machine. I've been obsessed with the concept, and Doctor Who, all the stuff you see in Star Trek. Back to the Future, of course, the trilogy gets seen like maybe twice a year. That kind of thing. And I know, just time travel movies. Now, granted, I probably don't have the most comprehensive, obsessive library of time travel ephemera in the world, but I would consider myself an amateur authority. But I just love the concept. I love the storytelling potential that comes with it. And that particular book is, the history of the concept in literature and everything else. Apparently I'll do a full book report on it when I do read it. Probably be like not too distant future, because I'm really fascinated with that. Some readings take priority over the others, but basically, up until H.G. Wells' The Time Machine, time travel was only ever featured in dreams or visions in literature. Like a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court by Mark Twain was a dream. He got knocked on the head, and apparently he woke up back in medieval times and basically showed them the ingenious modern technology of, Twain's time, the relative present. But anyway, always been fascinated with the concept. Wish I had a time machine. I'd be like going everywhere. Even though I don't like travel now anymore, I'm a flight attendant, I'd probably like hop into that machine and just kind of zip around, check out, probably check out Victorian England. I've always wanted to visit Victorian England. The pyramids, Woodstock. I'll probably be doing a lot of music, but we'll touch on that in a second. But anyway, my reading habits are really, really schizophrenic. Speaking of time travel, two of my pet obsessions, time travel and Scotland, are married together in A Breath of Snow and Ashes by Diana Gabaldon. It's an Outlander book, and it's the 5th book in the series, and they're like honking books. They're like that thick, about 900 to 1,000 pages long, and they're written in the tradition of, Charles Dickens and Herman Melville, in that they're meant to be read, and there's no other distractions going on. They're meant to be like dove into and just absorbed, because back in the day when Moby Dick and all the novels of Charles Dickens, there weren't really any other media competing for your entertainment attention. There was no radio. There was no internet, obviously. No television. So you read, and there was newspapers, and a lot of those novels are serialized in newspapers anyway. So you read your news, and then you read that, and you eagerly look forward to the next installment. But anyway, reading Diana Gabaldon's Breath of Snow and Ashes, and Outlander is currently being done in TV form. Each book is a season, much like Game of Thrones is. And you basically have a nurse from post-World War II, an English nurse from just post-World War II, getting blasted back in time 2 centuries. And she meets what turns out to be the love of her life, Jamie Fraser. And the books are very highly detailed. If you love Scotland, if you love Highland history, all that sort of thing, you'll enjoy it. But the first one's kind of a slow read. It sets you up. I would recommend seeing the first season of the TV series, see if you like it, because they well, they distill it rather nicely. But I'm currently reading that. The Sun magazine, which we'll get to in a second. Can you see that? Actually, no, the cover. The Sun magazine is a spiritual. I guess you could call it a spirituality magazine. It undergoes it has no ads, so it's basically human writing, raw writing. When they interview somebody, they do alternative energy sources, all that hippie, crunchy, lefty stuff, which I lean towards myself. But we'll get to this in a moment. I'm reading this. I'm reading issues of Back Issue, which handle comics from the Bronze Age, which I touched upon before. From 1970, I'd say early 70s to early 80s, the Bronze Age, and I'm reading the Outlander book. So I've got all those three in the air. And while I was reading The Sun, and here's a bit of synchronicity for you, it kind of leads to other purchases in that, okay, I'm reading The Sun. I was very surprised to see an article about Ani DeFranco in here. Now, Ani DeFranco is a musician in the tradition of Pete Seeger, where she believes that music is politics, it is activism. I had a couple of good friends of mine introduce me to her. I have a couple of her albums actually, but generally I'm not a big fan of her music. I'm more a fan of the way she distributed her music. For the longest time, she was selling music out of the back of her van. She was Righteous Babe Records, and there was no middleman. She didn't really have to, pay any management because she was management for a while. So she did shows and she sold CDs. And she didn't even want to do T-shirts for a long time, but she had to support. She had to support her tour. She needed like her own sound man when she went on tour. So to do that, she had to do the merchandise thing. So anyway, I'm still in the middle of the article, and I'm reading it, and it's basically what she considers success to be, and the power of music, and that sort of thing. And I find it really fascinating. So usually I kind of skim through these things because sometimes they're about alternative child rearing and that stuff that just doesn't speak to me, but I will read about Ani DeFranco. So, interestingly enough, I'm in Ocean State Job Lots today, and I'm just going through their books, and I find this. I find The Death of Bunny Monroe by Nick Cave, of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds fame. I'll read this from Rob Sheffield in Rolling Stone because he describes Nick Cave's music and storytelling better than I ever could. Nick Cave will obviously live forever just because the devil's scared of him. Ever since he stomped out of the junkyard with the Birthday Party, his previous band, Cave has walked tall in the role of Lucifer's rock and roll boyfriend. And I would call Nick Cave dark folk, gothic folk, if you will. He's been around for quite a while. Very florid, very, very dark storytelling, but excellent. If you wanted an entryway album to listen to, I would get The Boatman's Call. And there's also, I even did a single with Kylie Minogue, a fellow Australian, called Where the Wild Roses Grow. And it's about, guess what, a serial killer who's obsessed with a woman and takes her down to the stream and cracks her in the head, kills her. But it's such a sweet little ditty, the way they sing it together. You're like, it's haunting, but you're like, oh, a dead woman singing to you. When Kylie Minogue's singing. But anyway, really dig his music, so I found out he's also an author. He's also done a screenplay for The Proposition. So I picked this up, and I thought, I've got to get that. Geez, it's only $4.99. So then I'm also going through, and I find this. It's this gigantic, honking, hardcover coffee book called Music. It's basically a study of the power of music. 50 musicians defining their craft. So, I wasn't sure if I should pick this up, I need another book like I need an asshole right there. Pardon my language. But, you look at the names you have here. Laurie Anderson, Fiona Apple, Burt Bacharach, Dave Brubeck, Roseanne Cash, Johnny Cash, Common, Billy Corgan, Ani DeFranco. That was another synchronicity link right there. Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits, Lenny Kravitz, John Legend, Graham Nash, Sinead O'Connor, Yoko Ono, Ozzy Osbourne, of all people, John Williams, who pretty much he's done all the scores to pretty much the bulk of every Steven Spielberg and George Lucas film ever made. They all just basically talk about the craft of writing music. And of course, the first page I opened to mentions Nick Cave. the guy whose book I just picked up not 3 minutes before. And of course you see Ani DeFranco there. So I don't know, there's some sort of glowing line of synchronicity at work there. Says, okay, Gary, just pick this up. I mean, I know you don't need this book, but the price is right. $5. Come on. I mean, and it's about people, it's about musicians talking about their craft and their work ethic and all that. I can't play. I wish I could, but I really do enjoy music of all types. And really depends on my mood. Today I just happened to be listening to Scottish folk in the car or running errands. The other day I was listening to synthwave. Basically, it's synthwave. It's music. It's synthesized music that sounds like it was made in 1982, and you can't get any further opposite from like organic Scottish folk music than that. But again, I guess it depends on the mood. But anyway, that's what I'm currently reading right now, and I don't know. I just want to know if are you the type of person that has like 6 or 7 reading projects on the go at just in case. Again, I have a limited attention span. I get bored, and then I'll just go into something else. But sometimes you're just not in the mood to read a gigantic Scottish time travel novel, so you read a book about comics instead. Or music, or the sun. I mean, it's a constant diet. I just wish my physical food diet could be as well-rounded as my reading diet. But anyway, I've babbled on long enough. I just want to share that with you. Sort of like how my mind works and getting me to pick up stuff to read. And believe me, I have a whole room full of books down there that probably won't be read for another, 10, 20 years. I will leave you with this example, though. Once upon a time, when I used to do trips to England, we used to stay in Brighton. Great bookstores in Brighton in the lanes, and I found this one book called The Rise and Fall of the Victorian Servant. And I kind of like Victoriana, and I found this really fast. I picked it up, never read it. It was in my British history section, and heavy on the British Empire. But so it languished there for years and years through several moves, etc., so on. Then Downton Abbey comes on, and Downton Abbey is just a well-done show, period. And of course, it's the whole upstairs-downstairs comparison and contrast, and well, it started making me wonder, well, what exactly was it like to be a servant back then? So I finally took that book off the shelf and read it, and it was, again, it was aimed more about, like, say, 50 years before Downton Abbey's beginning, but still, it gave you the nuts and bolts of how you got a job, how you got referred to, the pay rate. It was actually I don't mean to sound demeaning, but this is a very glorified research paper, complete with all the sources, but it was very educational, and hard life if you had a life of service, and if you had someone you worked for that sucked. I guess you could find somebody else, but you'd have to leave with a good reference. But anyway, my point is that I'll buy a book. I might not read it today or tomorrow or next year, but eventually I will read it when the planets align correctly. All right, going on 14 minutes now. Better leave. Good talking to you. Keep reading, keep thinking, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.